All right, so we're diving into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, this book that's like a classic for some people, I guess. And for others, maybe not so much. But we're going to figure out what it's all about. And we're checking out this YouTube summary by Escaping Ordinary.
Escaping Ordinary.
Yeah, the name itself, right.
Yeah, interesting.
Kind of makes you think, like, what is that all about? Why would someone want to escape the ordinary, especially when it comes to, like, money and finances?
Well, that's really what Robert Kiyosaki is getting at in this book. He's saying most of us are stuck in this, like, rat race, working for someone else, trading time for money, and never really getting ahead financially.
So, like, escaping the 9-to-5 grind.
Yeah, kind of.
But Rich Dad, Poor Dad goes, like, deeper than just quit your job, right?
Oh, absolutely. The whole book is kind of built around these two contrasting mindsets. He talks about his two dads, his biological father, the poor dad, and then his friend's father, the rich dad. The poor dad, he was a hard worker, well-educated, the traditional path. Get a good job, save money, maybe invest a little bit in a 401k. But Kiyosaki argues that often leads to, like, financial struggle.
So what about the rich dad? He must have, like, a totally different approach then.
Totally different. The rich dad, he was all about financial literacy.
Okay.
Understanding how money actually works.
Right.
And then building assets that actually generate income even while you sleep.
Ooh. Okay,
like, that's the key to escaping the rat race, creating a system where your money works for you instead of you constantly working for money.
So it's almost like flipping the script on, like, typical financial advice. I can see why people, like, got into this book, but honestly, it sounds kind of oversimplified, this whole rich dad, poor dad thing.
Yeah, you got to be careful with it. I mean, it's a really strong illustration.
Right.
But real life finances, it's, not so black and white.
Right, of course.
It's not about, like, saying traditional jobs are bad or anything.
Right.
And it's not about just glorifying being rich, for the sake of being rich.
So how do we actually use these ideas, like, in a way that makes sense for our own lives?
That's where the financial education piece comes in.
Right.
Kiyosaki's always saying understanding how money works is, like, the foundation of building wealth. It's not just about, earning a lot. It's what your money does for you.
Yeah.
And a big thing he talks about is this difference between assets and liabilities.
And that's where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just stick to the, like, regular definition of those.
No, not at all.
Okay.
He really wants us to rethink what an asset actually is. An asset, he says, is anything that puts money in your pocket.
Okay.
A liability, anything that takes money out.
Okay, got it.
So you might think your house is an asset, it's valuable. But if you're, like, always putting money into it, mortgage payments, repairs, taxes.
Right.
It might actually be acting more like a liability, the way Kiyosaki sees it.
Wow, that's a big shift, I think.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about all the stuff we normally think of as assets. So what are some things that actually would be assets, using Kiyosaki's definition?
He talks about a few key ones. Businesses, stocks, real estate, even intellectual property.
Okay.
Things that can make money without you always having to work on them.
Right.
So, like, you have a rental property, you get passive income from the rent.
Got it.
Or a successful blog. You can earn money from ads or affiliate marketing.
So it's like you build this system that works for you.
Yeah.
Even when you're off doing other things, living your life. That's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Escaping the ordinary, having that financial freedom.
Exactly.
So you can pursue your passions and not stress about money all the time.
But Kiyosaki's not, like, sugarcoating it,
No, great.
He's clear that building wealth takes work.
Yeah.
Education, willingness to kind of challenge how you think about things.
Right.
He talks a lot about overcoming fear, like fear of failure, He thinks that holds a lot of people back from taking risks and going after their financial goals.
So it's not just, like, learning the concepts. It's about, like, changing your mindset.
Yeah.
So you can actually take advantage of opportunities and, like, take those calculated risks.
Right.
What exactly is a calculated risk, though? Like, how is that different from just being, reckless?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely get into more.
Okay.
But, I mean, it comes down to understanding your own finances.
Right.
Doing your research, weigh in the potential rewards against the downsides.
Okay, so being informed.
Yeah, making informed decisions, not just jumping into something blindly.
Right.
And it's about being ready to learn from your mistakes, too. Because
Yeah.
you're going to have setbacks. That's just part of it.
Right.
On any path to success, I think.
So it's like knowledge, strategy, and then just that resilience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And remember, even with the best plan, you know, there's no guarantee you're going to be rich overnight. Building wealth, it's a journey, not just a destination.
Yeah.
It's about having that long-term vision and taking action consistently to reach your goals.
So we've kind of laid out the basics of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
We talked about, you know, the two dads, their different mindsets, escaping the rat race, and how important it is to build those assets that generate income. But like with any popular book, there's always going to be other perspectives, you know, and criticisms to think about too.
You're right. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to get into some of those criticisms.
Okay.
And see how Kiyosaki's ideas have held up over time.
Sounds good.
And we'll talk about how to apply these concepts in a responsible, practical way.
Perfect.
Because ultimately, it's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And building a financial path that fits your values and goals.
Awesome. Okay, so we've covered some of the big ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know, the rat race and building assets, that financial literacy piece. But like with any big book, you know, a lot of people read it. There's always going to be different perspectives, you know.
Yeah.
And some people criticizing it. So what are some of those criticisms that people have about Kiyosaki's work?
One of the biggest ones I hear is that he's like really into investing, right? But he doesn't really give you a ton of specific advice on how to do it. So like he'll talk about buying real estate, but he doesn't really go into like the nitty gritty of, you know, how to find good properties or get a mortgage or manage rentals.
So if you're looking for like a step-by-step guide, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's more about like shifting your mindset. It's a way of thinking about money and building wealth. It's supposed to make you question things, you know, inspire you to take control. But it's not really a how-to manual.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like it lays the foundation, but you got to go find the tools to actually build the house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another criticism is that some of Kiyosaki's own businesses have had some legal issues.
So it's not all, you know, sunshine and roses.
Right.
Just because his story sounds inspiring doesn't mean everyone's going to have the same success.
Right. And it's important to keep in mind, just because someone's made a lot of money doesn't mean everything they do is, you know, ethical or something you should copy.
You always got to think critically, right?
You're sure.
No matter who's giving you advice, even if they seem really successful.
Definitely. And another thing people point out is that he kind of oversimplifies some pretty complex financial stuff.
Like what?
Like he's big on using debt to build wealth, but, you know, debt can be dangerous if you don't handle it right.
Yeah, it's not just run up your credit cards and hope for the best, right?
Definitely not. You got to understand the different types of debt, you know, good debt versus bad debt. You got to know about interest rates and all that.
Right.
It's about using debt to get assets that make you money. And then, you know, managing that debt so it doesn't get out of control.
So I guess the takeaway is to like approach Kiyosaki's ideas with a balanced view.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
See the value in the core stuff. Financial literacy, building assets, that whole escape the rat race thing. But don't take it all as like the absolute truth.
Exactly. Use it to jumpstart your learning, explore different ways to invest, and then, you know, come up with your own plan that fits your risk tolerance, what you want to achieve in the long run.
So even with all these criticisms, it sounds like Rich Dad, Poor Dad has gotten people talking about money more.
Yeah, I think so.
Makes us question the usual path, right? And think about other ways to build wealth. But how do we make sure we're like actually applying these ideas in a responsible way?
That's a great question. And I think it's super important.
Yeah.
Building wealth shouldn't come at the expense of other people or, you know, the planet.
Of course not.
It's about finding those win-win situations where you're successful financially, but it also benefits everyone else and helps make things more sustainable.
So how do we like connect Kiyosaki's ideas to being ethical?
One way is to focus on assets that have like a positive impact, you know, socially or environmentally.
Okay.
So instead of investing in a company that's known for pollutant, maybe you look at renewable energy or companies that are really focused on sustainability.
So you're using your money to support things you believe in, kind of making a ripple effect.
Exactly. And in real estate, maybe you invest in affordable housing projects or try to revitalize a neighborhood that's been neglected.
Those are great examples. You know, you can build wealth and make a difference at the same time.
And another part of ethical wealth building is being transparent, honest.
So no, like shady deals or cutting corners.
Exactly. Do things with integrity, treat people fairly, and be upfront about your intentions. That builds trust, helps things last in the long run.
So it's about making money in a way that feels good,
Yeah.
and that matches your values.
Absolutely. And remember, financial success, it's not just about the money. It's about living a life that's meaningful, a life where you feel fulfilled and free.
Okay.
It's about using your money to chase your passions, support things you care about, and have a positive impact.
All right, so we've dug into those criticisms of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We talked about how to approach his ideas in an ethical way. But now, let's shift gears and talk about you, the listener. How can you actually use these ideas to, start creating your own path towards financial freedom, that whole escaping the ordinary thing? All right, so we've explored the main points of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We've looked at some of the criticisms and even how to think about it all ethically. But now let's get practical. Yeah, how can you actually start escaping the ordinary? How can you create a financial plan that actually works for you?
I think it really does start with a shift in perspective. Remember how Kiyosaki's always saying, move beyond just getting a big paycheck.
Yeah.
Focus on those assets, the things that make you money.
Like building that money machine that works even when you're sleeping.
Right. But where do you even start?
Yeah. That's the big question.
Well, first you got to know where you stand.
Okay.
Look at your money, what's coming in, what's going out.
Right.
Do you have any assets already, even small ones? It's all about getting that clear picture of your finances.
It's like taking inventory before you start a big project, right?
Exactly. You got to know what you're working with before you make any changes.
Okay, so once you've got that picture,
then you can start setting goals that actually mean something to you.
And not just those vague, I want to be rich goals, right?
Right. Get specific. What does financial freedom look like to you?
Yeah.
Is it early retirement? Traveling the world?
Starting a business?
Having the security to do what you love without worrying about money?
So many options. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it can feel kind of overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
Start small.
Okay.
Little by little, build your knowledge and experience. You don't need a ton of cash to start building assets.
Right.
Kiyosaki talks a lot about finding creative deals, seeing opportunities where other people might not.
And using debt to your advantage, too. But that always makes me a little nervous.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Debt can be tricky. It's about knowing the difference between good debt and bad debt.
Right.
Good debt's when you're using it to get something that'll grow in value or make you money.
Okay.
Like a rental property or a business loan.
Gotcha.
Bad debt, that's the stuff you use for things that lose value quickly.
Like that impulse buy at the mall?
Exactly. So it's not about never using debt. It's about using it strategically so it works for you, not against you.
Be smart about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, as you're building your assets, keep learning about money. Read books, listen to podcasts, take classes, find mentors who can help you out.
Like leveling up your financial skills as you go.
I like that. And you don't have to do it alone. Find people who get it, who support your goals, and who can give you advice when you need it.
Yeah, like a network of people on the same journey.
Exactly. But also, stay true to yourself. Make a financial plan that feels right for you, that fits your values.
Because at the end of the day, escaping the ordinary, it's not just about money.
No, it's not.
It's about creating a life you love.
Absolutely. A life that's meaningful, fulfilling, and where you have the freedom to do what you want.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, think about this. What's one tiny step you can take today to start building your own path, to start living that extraordinary life? It could be anything, setting a financial goal, picking up a book on investing, even just brainstorm some side hustle ideas.
The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one single step.
Go out there and start building your own path to escaping the ordinary.